are in particular viewing this on recording, coming back to it through Zoom, today we're wrapping up session number 6 of a 6-week series where we've really been trying to get you connected to all of the different platforms and programs that eXp offers. What makes this brokerage unique, the things that you won't find in other places that help you expand your opportunity to earn income, leverage programs to introduce clients to a broader, more well-rounded agent in this model. How are you tapping in? As we finish up on week 6, where we're going to conclude is sort of where we started last week. First, making sure that we really understood what revenue share is, where it comes from, where those dollars come from, how they're calculated. And then we're going to sort of pivot now into our conversation, just talking a little bit about, all right, how do I start having these conversations with agent attraction? So much of what's in the marketplace right now around eXp, there are a very small group of individuals that cast very wide nets. And, some are very successful in that space. Some are also in a position where maybe if you were an owner or you were a broker and you came over to eXp in that capacity, coming, from owning a brokerage or managing a very large team, you might think those individuals are well poised or better poised to be able to attract new agents into eXp. The point of the conversation today is to let you know that, number one, every agent at eXp has the ability to attract and benefit from revenue share. It doesn't matter if you attract one person, 100 people, 1,000 people. This is a program that's available to you, number one. And number two, recognize that certainly in my mind, and I think in most people's minds, attraction needs to be about relationship building. When I walk into a store, or I hire a new professional, let's say I hire a new financial advisor, there's a lot of time, effort, and trust that needs to build up before I really gain confidence in that relationship. You as a real estate agent, you experience that with buyers and sellers, having to build trust over time. Agent attraction is much the same way. So it's important as you listen for the next 45 minutes that don't turn off these ideas and conclude that they're not available or accessible or viable for you in your ability to attract, because you absolutely can be successful. So we talked about revenue share last week, and we talked about how it's an opportunity for you to gain additional cash income. Revenue share is paid on a monthly basis. And when that revenue share is paid to an agent, it's yours to do with as you wish. Whether you are paying for a vacation, whether you're putting it back into your business, perhaps you even, based on the success that you are experiencing in attraction, maybe you want to expand your attraction efforts by doing some things on social media, or by hosting events, paying for lunches or coffee clutches with groups of individuals. Okay, so there are so many things that you can do. It's giving you opportunity. I can't emphasize that enough. That's what I love more than anything about this model. I'll briefly mention, because we did talk about it last week, and it's important that you understand that there are guiding principles that eXp puts out regarding attraction. I encourage you to refer back to the attraction pledge, which you can find in the Explore guide. You can find it on Workplace. I believe there are multiple groups within eXp's Workplace where they reference the attraction pledge. The important thing to know about attraction is that it needs to be done with the same level of courtesy, respect, and professionalism that you would expect to conduct yourself as a real estate agent. Okay, those same ethics and morals apply when it comes to attraction. So you can reference that and go back and read more. Just make sure you understand that it exists, and eXp Corporate stands by it. So the most important components when it comes to attraction, I think, are summed up right here on this slide. First and foremost, know the value. Understand what it is you are essentially selling. If you are in the business of trying to secure a new buyer or a new seller, you would need to demonstrate that you understand the market, and you would have to be able to articulate what would make you unique from other options that are available to those clients. That's the same premise with attraction. It's important that you understand the components of the brokerage that you're in. If you feel like you know very little about this brokerage, then one of your first responsibilities with attraction should be, let me learn more. Let me allocate 30 minutes or 60 minutes a week to learning about some other component of this brokerage that will allow the next step, the conversation, to flow more easily. And so then leading to that next step, invite the conversation. At some point, you have to be willing to either receive that question, why did you move to eXp? Or do you want to broach the subject yourself and say, hey, I've worked with you on a couple of transactions. What do you think of eXp? What have you heard? Would you be interested in hearing about it? I'm loving it, and I just want you to hear why. Okay. So you invite that conversation. But then the most important component, the end of it here, is listening. The value of conversation comes in the listening. So if you remember where we left off last week, I made mention that there was some homework, which I on occasion do. There is a kindergarten teacher in here somewhere. And so I asked, and if you haven't, if you're just viewing this video now, I encourage you to pause it and go through this exercise about, writing down on paper, identify 5 attributes of this brokerage that are meaningful or valuable to you, things that excite you, things that you didn't experience or that didn't exist in the brokerage that you came from. Or if you're brand new, what are the things that you're loving about this model if you're brand new to real estate? And then the other piece of the homework was to identify maybe 5 to 10 agents, maybe a dozen agents that you've worked with in the last year or so. And what I'll say now is make sure that you're being selective in the names that you list. You could go through and list absolutely anybody and everybody that you've had interaction with, whether it be on a transaction, in a networking group, at a realtor event. But what you want to think about are people who, number one, might be more open to this model. Number two, would be open to conversation. And when I say open to conversation, not just listening, you need to hear from them. You need to let them express where they are and where they want to be. And also, you want to make sure that if you're going to spend the time talking with individuals, that you're not engaging in an offensive, defensive conversation of whose brokerage is better. It's about conversation. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are stepping into the attraction space, it's because you want to help someone else experience some of those same energizing qualities that you listed in the first part of this homework. So let's take a minute. I'm going to articulate now. So we're back. If we go back and look at this arrow, this is where we are, knowing the value, right? So I'm going to articulate here to help you with that homework. If you weren't sure exactly what you should be putting on the list, I'm going to tell you what I love about this model. Absolutely, the opportunity that an agent can become a shareholder, can be an owner in this brokerage is important to me. The fact that an agent can choose from a variety of individual and team options depending on their own priorities, their own production needs, their own, whether they have a need for community or prefer to work solo, they have options. The competitive splits, I think that speaks for itself. And when we see what's happening with other brokerages in our space, trying to catch up, trying to become competitive to what eXp can offer, that sort of speaks a lot for itself. Collaboration is a huge one. From all of the research that I've ever done, all of the experience that I've had in my own prior brokerage, that I've seen with other neighboring brokerages, collaboration was not something you did outside of the walls of your office. and sometimes even within the walls of your office, it was difficult to get help, guidance, support, direction from another agent who maybe was successful working next to you. The idea was keep everything close to the vest. This model is not at all about that. Again, going back to the idea that I'm an owner, I'm a shareholder. So if you're successful, I'm successful. Let me collaborate with you. Let me tell you what works with a postcard program. Let's talk about how to handle buyers in a very difficult market. Let's hear from people with energizing, inspiring, amazing stories of success to build one another, build one another up, in turn, build the brokerage up, and build our role, build our value as real estate agents in a real estate transaction. Icon, I can't even tell you the ability to pay into a cap and then have an opportunity to get some of it paid back to you. What other brokerage has that option available to you? You're not going to be able to tell anyone. So that's a big deal. Another one, technology-driven brokerage. I love all of the technology. And even if I were someone who didn't embrace technology, what we have to recognize is that the role that technology plays in everyday life today, the role that it will play tomorrow, is much different than it was even 5 or 10 years ago. So we as professionals need to be able to evolve, and you need to be with a brokerage that's ahead of that curve and evolving and staying with the times. eXp, in their alignment with technology, does that over and over again. I love that this is a national brokerage, that if I wanted to expand and build out my team into Pennsylvania and Maryland, or maybe at some point I wanted to go into the Carolinas or Florida, I could do that. And I wouldn't have to pick up and choose a new brokerage, move my profile, reestablish myself. I can just extend everything that I've done and made work here in New Jersey into those other markets, because we are one international brokerage. That's a huge deal. The networking is phenomenal. And then going back to collaboration and technology, bringing those things together and having a network of agents that you can collaborate with, that you can lean on, that you can get referrals from. It's really fantastic. Healthcare is something that initially wouldn't have come to my mind, in my top 5. But there are so many people in our space that struggle with securing good healthcare coverage. And there are any number of stories amongst eXp agents where they've talked about how much money this program has saved them, or how much care this program has given them. Life-changing, life-saving care. So that's a really big deal. Having a retirement strategy. You are an independent contractor. What other brokerage can speak eloquently and put, might behind the word, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk about giving you options for a retirement strategy? eXp does it. And then finally, there's 75,000 of us and growing. We were at what? I think we were maybe at 40,000 a year ago. So clearly, more and more people are gaining confidence in this model, learning the model, and absolutely gaining respect for it as well. Okay, so this is where I go when I say know the value. These are the things that, based on my own experience, education, training, research, investigation, these are the things that I've come to value so much about the eXp model for myself, for the members of my team, and for the members of our network as well. So now let's go back. Remember that we know the value. I've defined the value. Now let's invite the conversation. This is important. The conversation means listening. If we are concerned about what the answer is going to be, then I say go back to the first step and know your value. Understand what it is that you want to share information about, the brokerage that you're selling, that you're sharing, that you're trying to attract someone to. And the more confidence you have in that value, the easier it will be to invite the conversation, and then don't talk. It's time to listen. Listening. And be prepared for an objection, or a rejection, or that sort of thank you but no thank you response, understand that that's usually coming from perhaps fear, perhaps lack of understanding, and you shouldn't be discouraged by that. What I will tell you, what I encourage you to do is, when you want to talk with someone about the brokerage, always keep it in the context of, I'd like to help you understand because I think this model can bring value to you. Think of it in terms of, my husband and I walked into a furniture store about 6 months ago. We needed a new mattress. And I, he and I had spoken ahead of time about the things that we needed to agree to, right? His needs, my needs, things that would make us happy, how much we were willing to spend. And we proceeded to explain to the first person that greeted us in the furniture store what we were looking for, and all of these sort of characteristics of what we thought would make a good mattress. Inevitably, the first store that we went into, the first three things that they showed to us were not at all in line with what we were looking to achieve, what our needs were. So we had expressed it. That salesperson wasn't hearing us and proceeded to take us to a place where he was showing us things beyond our price point, beyond what we were looking to spend. And that told me that he wasn't trying to achieve and serve my objectives. He was trying to serve his own. The next store that we went to was a completely different experience. And the salesperson immediately, the first product that she showed us, checked off all of our boxes. So what does that tell me? That tells me that she understands where I am, what I need, and that she's looking to help me achieve my goal of getting a new mattress. The idea with attraction is the same, that if you have a genuine desire to help the person that you're talking to understand this model and experience this model, then you won't worry about the sale. You won't worry about the pitch or the script. You'll just articulate all the things that you love and know are of value to you. You'll listen to understand the needs of that other agent, and then you'll look to find ways to match the value with their needs. Okay, it really is that simple. And when you break it down to something that basic, attraction, in my mind at least, makes a lot more sense. Having said that, I completely appreciate that. Sometimes if you don't prepare yourself and you're standing there in the furniture store and somebody asks you what you need, if you haven't really thought about it before, that could be a hard question to answer. So you want to be prepared and have information in your back pocket, knowing that those, oh no, thank you, responses are going to come. And here are the ones that I think are most prevalent in our space. My brokerage is cheaper. I'll make more money where I'm at, just staying where I am. And I'm going to show you something there in a minute. I love my broker. I have pending deals. I don't want a virtual brokerage. I don't want to join a big brand brokerage that you'll see a lot from agents who are typically with mom and pop or privately owned brokerages. And then finally, the last one, eXp is a pyramid scheme. Those are probably the most common things that you would hear from somebody who says, I don't want to talk, don't want to hear, just not even interested in the concept. Let me first talk about this one, my brokerage is cheaper, because what I have found is that the math speaks for itself. And I want to show you just a couple of examples of what I mean by that. And this is about, again, going back to our initial point, know the value, understand how this model works. If you understand how the model works and you can explain it, then you're just having a conversation. You're not making a pitch. Okay. What I've done, and I've done this partly for attraction's sake and partly too to help team members on my team who made the transition understand how commissions are calculated in eXp. I've got a spreadsheet that I work with, and it does always have to be modified a little bit depending on any individual agent's circumstance. But I want to show you two examples, the way that my spreadsheet works. It requires that I have some information about how an agent was paid under their previous model in order to be able to show the side-by-side comparison with eXp. So let's take a look at my first example. This is an agent who earned about $68,000 in gross commission over the course of a year. So a very reasonable, realistic model. I'm not talking about somebody who earned $1 million. I'm talking about somebody who you have probably worked with over the course of the last year, falling right into this category. In this assumption, I'm going to assume that the brokerage that they were with over the course of this year of transactions took 6% commission, plus on occasion took an additional fee if there was a listing that closed. And I'm also going to assume that because they have such a small split with the house, 6%, that they also had a monthly bill, because we do know some franchises have monthly billing to their agents or desk fees. And let's say this agent in this model was good enough to provide me with, okay, these are the addresses that I closed, which I've blocked out here. Here's the gross commission, and this is what I got paid on a net basis from my brokerage. And then I also had those bills, $1,000 a month. So this is what this agent netted after paying their brokerage, which they may or may not know that number. You'd be surprised how many people don't know that number. Then I turn to show them what it might look like if they were on a team with eXp. And let's say they came into a team where they went on a quarter cap, so a $4,000 cap, and maybe they had a 95-5 split with their team. I lay out here with the math exactly what that looks like. Paying the 5% into the team, what it is to pay into the cap. Once you pay your cap, having transaction fees, paying E&O, paying the broker fee. And then I also make sure to factor in, because there is a monthly bill with eXp, right? The $85 a month. So what does that mean? In the eXp model, this is what the agent would have netted if they had this same transaction experience and only had done it with eXp instead. They would have kept $7,000 more in their pocket over the course of the year. What that also doesn't take into account is that under this scenario, this agent would automatically have the opportunity to generate revenue share by attracting other agents into eXp, and would also have received a stock award for closing his or her first transaction, and would receive a second stock award for capping. So 2 stock awards, and then would also have the ability to leverage stock equity. So imagine taking some of this additional money that they would have netted under eXp and putting that towards purchasing stock at a 10% discount, how impactful that might be. Again, we can't predict how stocks are going to perform, but you're giving yourself opportunity that did not exist with this $50,900 number. Okay, so that's one example. And let me just show you a second example, because the math really is so important, because a lot of people, this is where the conversation starts. Once you have a conversation about the math, then all of the other aspects about attraction, about the collaboration and the programs and the technology and the resources, then an agent is much more willing to hear what you have to say as you describe and define the value. Okay. So let's say this is going to be a bit of a different situation. Let's say that we're talking about a 6-figure production agent, producing over $200,000 in gross commission income. Let's say that they're with a brokerage where they have a $24,000 cap. And then once they meet their cap, they go to a 6% royalty fee. We hear that word, with some other brokerages in our space. But let's go on the assumption that this agent has no monthly bill. So again, for my example, I have a whole list of transactions, closing by closing, street by street, which I don't have streets shown here, but you see the total dollar that they grossed. Here's that cap that I referenced. And then you'll see once they met that $24,000 cap, then the deductions pivot to pay that 6% royalty fee. And so this is what the agent would have netted under their prior model. And they should be able to provide you all this information so that you're getting them to this number. Remember, we said they had no bills, okay, no monthly bill. So now how would that look if this agent chose to come to eXp as an individual agent, no team, with a $16,000 cap? So I do the same thing. I calculate out, what that 20% would look like, getting them to pay their cap. Once an individual agent caps, they go to a transaction fee of $250. You've got the E&O and the broker fee. What's really incredible here with this particular agent earning over $200,000 in commission is that they would hit the $16,000 cap, and they've met the 20 additional transaction requirement to achieve icon status. So you'll see on this very last transaction how their transaction fee goes to $75. And that's because they've paid the full additional 20 transactions, that's all of these here, towards that icon requirement. So now, because they've met those two criteria, they automatically are going to receive half of that $16,000 back in the form of a stock award with a vesting period. And they'll have the opportunity to earn more of that back by participating in some other community events. So if I take a look at this model, this agent with the $85 bills would net $191,000. That doesn't even include getting back the $8,000 in stock awards. Okay, so we still would have to layer on the benefit of icon, again, of revenue share, of the other opportunity for stock awards, when you close your first transaction, and then stock equity as well. So when an agent looks at this on paper, I think the two most important things that they learn are, oh my gosh, look how much I've been paying into my existing brokerage. And wow, you've actually shown me on paper what it would look like if I were with eXp. So this goes back to the whole beginning conversation. The knowledge is where you'll find your greatest power. That's where you're going to offer the greatest value, knowing how to explain this model. When someone says, I love my broker, I love my broker too. And guess what? The broker came with us, and now he's serving as a fabulous mentor on our team. So, I would always be happy to talk to somebody's broker in addition to talking to them. But I appreciate that, when you have a relationship with a broker and you feel good about it, that you don't want to be disloyal to that relationship. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we aren't talking about, friends who babysit each other's kids on the weekend or go to one another's sporting events or get together for dinners and wine and cheese on Friday nights. We are talking about your business, how you generate income, how you pay your bills, and how you achieve a certain quality of life. So you have to be able to separate the loyalty from the business relationship and what makes the greatest business sense. So sometimes when I hear that, I absolutely respect that. I would never disrespect that, but I just try to sort of set it aside and really talk about the value of the brokerage, because then once you start to really touch on things like networking and collaboration and the resources that are available, the thousands of people that make up that network really sort of start to drown out the ability of one individual broker to be life-changing to your business. Okay. So it's the power of many versus the power of one or few. Pending deals, I don't even think of pending deals as an objection. I just think about it as a question of timing. Again, absolutely respecting where someone is, where they are in their perception. And maybe the conversation, because I'm listening, is about, let me help you understand the model so that when the time is right, you might be in a position to entertain this as an option for you and a pivot for your business that could make a tremendous amount of sense. I don't want a virtual brokerage. I want brick and mortar. My first response when I hear that, only because we've all lived through it, and we've all had to challenge our thinking and our ideals after going through a pandemic that, I don't know that any of us had any type of experience that would even come closely near what we've been through in the last 2 years. A pandemic challenged every single thing that we do and the way that we do it, from grocery shopping to business to, do I need to be in Manhattan to do Manhattan work? Do I need to be on Wall Street to contribute to a Wall Street job? And the answer overwhelmingly has been, I can do things differently. The world can adapt and adjust and change, and still be just as, if not more, effective than it was. So I think that in and of itself sort of challenges the concept of virtual brokerage. But then once I think you layer on all of the, again, going back to collaboration and networking and opportunity that there is, um, despite the fact that you're not sitting next to all these people, that I can have an amazing conversation with an agent out in California who can absolutely get my social media on track for me and give me all the right advice that I need. And that never had to happen sitting next to them in New Jersey. It could come from someone clear across the country. So again, removing the need for some sort of geographic boundary. I don't want to join a big brand brokerage. I think that a lot of that has to do with um, misconceptions about some of the other more long-standing brokerages in the marketplace. I think that also could go back to the relationship, that if you're with a mom and pop organization, you feel a certain loyalty and a certain comfort level there. But the idea that your growth will be limited to that small mom and pop's ability to grow, which means there are going to be geographic limitations that prevent them. Typically, if you're with a mom and pop, they only handle, maybe 1 or 2 counties, a limited number of zip codes, let alone being able to expand further into other parts of your state or other parts beyond your state, right? So there are limitations there. But again, it's listening and understanding where a person is, where they want to be, and how this brand might give them value. The last thing that and I've seen this a couple of times, and once I saw it on paper, it makes so much sense, because you hear that a lot. The misinformation about eXp in the marketplace almost always leads people down the path of eXp as a pyramid scheme. So what I want to do is just show you on paper something that you could very easily do if you're sitting with coffee, having coffee with someone, or, maybe you're at a luncheon, or maybe somebody said, yeah, tell me in 10 minutes what you love about this brokerage. And they, throw out isn't that a pyramid scheme kind of thing. That's when you take a cocktail napkin and you say, let me show you pyramid scheme. Okay, let me show you what a pyramid looks like. Think about the model that you're with, and let's say you're with one of those large franchise models that pay out, they sell out their franchises to local franchise or market center leaders, and then they have agents that are out there producing, buying and selling of real estate, right? So think of one of those big box brand models, those traditional models. Here you have all the agents at the bottom of the pyramid, the bottom of the triangle, producing all of the dollars, producing all of the company dollar. Then slightly above those agents, you're going to have maybe the regional executives who might earn large territories, and I'm talking larger than even a state, multiple states or multiple parts of the country. You may, on a limited basis, see some franchise owners or market center leaders who are in this category, or maybe move up a little bit along this triangle or pyramid. But it's very difficult, because in those models, there's still so much financial burden at the franchise owner or the broker owner or the market center leader level to be able to take company dollar and pay expenses. What you really have are a very small group of individuals, the top executives of that franchise model, that are enjoying a majority of the profits of what that franchise is producing. That is your pyramid. What you see here with eXp is that at every facet of this model, the agent has a role. The agent is impactful and the agent can experience the benefits. It's not, those benefits are not limited to the top echelon executives. You can be the shareholder owner. You can benefit with revenue share through attraction. You can produce, and then you can also leverage the certifications that eXp makes available to you to further expand your ability to secure clients, to attract other agents, and to grow the model. So I think that that's important visually to help agents who think that eXp is a pyramid understand that, where are you in this model? Where do you fit in this model? And look where you fit in this one. Here at the bottom, here at every level. Okay. So remember that. That's just, again, to ease, I think, more than anything, your own anxiety about, oh my gosh, if they ask me that question, how would I answer it? Okay. Just going to check the chat real quick. Certifications. So Milagros, there are a number of certifications that eXp offers to its agents, and we've gone over those a little bit earlier in our series. I can refer you. There's a 1 hour, just like this, a lunch and learn that you can go back and watch all about eXp certifications. There's a program called Express Offers. There's relocation certification. REO, so like the bank-owned asset space certification. And there's mentorship. You can become a certified mentor. And then the last one, you could become certified in selling charitable real estate. So I have a whole program on that. And all of those certifications are available at no cost to the agent. It's about you putting in the time and energy through the trainings to get formally certified and then to tap into the business that those programs can generate for you. Okay. So if we go back to that arrow again, so knowing the value, being the person that invites the conversation or receives the questions, right? Those initial curiosity questions, and then turn on those listening ears and understand where a person is, where they want to be, and do not be afraid to ask questions. Absolutely ask questions. As you start to address some of the questions and try to articulate for yourself some of the values, some of all that value proposition that we've already gone over amongst us, this is where you start to leverage your resources. You should be the first person to have a conversation with an agent that you're looking to attract. You should be the person that can articulate what those troubling spots are for them, or, are they trying to get over the hump? Are they frustrated by the bill? Are they looking for something different? Are they not sure that they need any of this, but are at least willing to have the conversation? You should be the person that does all of that initial research. Think of yourself as sort of like the primary investigator on the case, right? But then recognize that from there, you're not alone, that you have resources available and accessible to you to help in the attraction process. First and foremost, you have an upline, right? So to give you a perfect example, my husband and I have been in real estate for more than 20 years and have a lot of relationships. We have had a 10-year relationship from a title standpoint with an agent who was with another brokerage, not with a brokerage like we had, but with a different model, a different logo, if you will. And I could do a good job of articulating the value of eXp, but because I didn't come from her same brokerage, there were some parts where she was really struggling to understand some things that she really did value heavily about that relationship that she wanted to make sure would correlate somehow, that would either be the same or better in the eXp model. Ultimately, I leveraged my upline and identified someone in my network who could provide experience, who came from that same brokerage and could provide experience and advice and actually speak to those very specific questions that I was being asked. So I didn't pretend that I had all the answers. I found the people who did. And that's what part of you being resourceful in attraction will require. You will want to find people who have the answers. You shouldn't expect that you have to know everything, but it's all about, and again, it speaks to how this whole model works with network and collaboration. The other thing too, when I talk about, leveraging your resources, use your network. There are multiple times where I've had conversations with agents that they're just not ready. They're not in a space where they want to entertain this conversation or this move, but they have been very excited to start to participate, say, in a Tuesday mastermind, and that's been very meaningful to them. Leverage that. That's what those Tuesday masterminds are there for, to help deliver content that's meaningful to others in the real estate space, and to leverage all of that synergy, all of that collaboration energy that happens, that's encouraged under the eXp model. And if you've participated in those Tuesday sessions, you'll know that very often you go through the entire hour and never once even mention a brokerage. Okay. So that's really something to keep in mind too, using the resources of the network. I encourage you, as you work through attraction, that understand that it's an exercise in time and patience. Time, because one conversation is not going to do it. It's not as easy as walking into the furniture store and deciding on a mattress. You do need to invest the time to help someone get all their questions answered, and to recognize that they have rights to those questions and they need those answers. This is about their profession, their livelihood, just like it was yours. So be respectful of that. And then the last thing that I would say when it comes to attraction is that when you are listening, when you stop the talking and you start to listen, recognize that that's where your learning continues as well. You want to know as much as you can about eXp, but it also helps you to know more about how some of these other models work as well. Because chances are, if I'm talking with Keller Williams agent, Century 21 agent, a Coldwell Banker agent, or a mom and pop agent, that a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, the same maybe struggles or frustrations or sticking points about those models, I might hear those over and over again. And so you want to build up in your mind that bit of intel and understanding, because it puts you in an even better position to be able to help express the value of what eXp can bring to a potential new agent.
Hey,
Okay.
Dean, how are you?
Hey, Jean, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Sorry, I really wanted to actually hop on at the beginning, but there's got to be a few hundred people right now that are missing a lot of valuable information from what you're discussing here. So I'm hoping that they're all just waiting for the video to come out.
But trust me, I absolutely am. We talked about that at the beginning. I think it's important that this content, what I deliver on Wednesdays, it's important that it be available, because not, if it's about certifications, Millie was asking about certifications a minute ago, or whether it's about attraction, not everybody today on February 23rd is ready to learn this information. But when you're ready, it's there for you.
And I just wanted to throw out there that for the last 45 minutes, I was actually on a Zoom call with a Keller Williams agent, talking to her about recruiting her to eXp, giving a lot of information. So whoever is, I see Stacy, Millie, Kathy, but and anyone who's watching this, let's say later in a replay, in a video. I was talking to this woman who's, at KW right now, and a lot of them don't actually understand or realize what the difference is. And forgive me if you already went over this. I don't know what the previous slides were, but a lot of them don't understand the difference with, revenue share and profit share. And that's what I kind of went over with the KW agent, explaining to her that, yeah, you guys do have profit sharing. And, I said, yeah, if you bring in 5 people, you do have the ability to make some additional income when those people close deals and you can get paid. But the only thing is just, look out for, keep in mind that you only can get that if your office or market center is actually showing a profit. And
That's exactly right.
That's really the main difference. I actually stole this graphic. I think Curtis Johnson had this like meme up that I took a screenshot of. I'm going to probably post it at some point, but it's like two guys standing next to each other. One guy's like super skinny, like, maybe like, let's say, 5'2", and the guy next to him is like 400 pounds, all muscle, like 6'5". And then on the muscle guy, it says, revenue share, and the skinny dude says profit share. But I just thought to point that out, because if you are ever talking to a KW agent, but the point is also this, and I mentioned this to a lot of the, even to my team and to my own agents, and you've probably told them this, you don't always have to be the recruiter. You don't have to be the one closing the deal. You don't want to be, you got to use resources that are available to you. So for example,
Absolutely.
if I'm talking to a team that I'm trying to recruit from Keller Williams, I will call Brett Sikora, who used to have a team with Keller Williams. He will come on with me because he speaks KW language. I don't.
Exactly.
So anyone who's interested in any kind of agent attraction, they need to leverage and use all of us as resources to help them with this. I even tell my agents, if you're talking to somebody, just do a little group text introduction. Put me in there with you and the other agent saying, hey, I just want to make a quick intro. This is my team leader, or, my mentor, whatever you want to call whatever they are. And if you have time, this week or next week, we can hop on a Zoom and we can answer some questions. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Only because I just literally hung up on a recruiting presentation.
Absolutely. And it really is about, and what we've spent some time talking about today is just first having the knowledge about what this model represents and just being able to articulate for yourself where you find value, because you can't really begin to intelligently speak to it with someone else if you can't even articulate the value proposition to yourself. So that's really important. But then from there, once you have that initial conversation and you really listen, you do a little bit of investigation and information gathering, share that information with those resources, to Jean's point, like we were talking about, with your upline, with your network, so that as you bring other people in, they're not coming into the conversation sort of cold, trying to get caught up to what you already have learned from this agent. They're leveraging what you've already started and are building on it to be able to start answering some of those additional questions that perhaps you couldn't answer, and to get a little bit deeper into the conversation. Okay.